Welcome back to Smith's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev, and delighted to say we're joined in the studio now by former Labour advisor Matthew Talbot and former MEP Annunziata Rees-Mogg. Annunziata, should we talk about WASPI women threatening legal action now?
Well, I think you can debate whether the WASPI women have a case or not. That I think there were many years of advertising the change. They could have taken action.
Just remind people who they were.
So the WASPI women are women born in the 1950s who expected to retire at a certain age, and that has been increased by between 4 and 6 years, during which time they cannot claim a pension. And the women caught in this obviously think that is deeply unfair and have campaigned now for many years to have it backdated and changed so that they don't lose out. And I think you can argue whether they have a case, whether that's right, whether it's wrong. What you can't argue is that this government, before they were elected, said they would support them. That they... pretty much the entire cabinet was photographed with these women campaigning, saying, we're on your side, and they've completely gone back on it. A lot of these women will have voted Labour because they thought they were going to change it, and they haven't.
And, you know, the Labour conference, Matthew, the WASP women had their own stands, you know, there's big exhibition stands, and they were brimming with confidence. They were buoyant because they knew that the next election was going to bring in a Labour government. So I think Keir Starmer had been to the stand to say hi, and I don't know that Rachel Reeves had, but half the shop. But Angela Rayner was never left them alone. The now Deputy Prime Minister. They've been let down.
They have by successive governments, I will say, but a huge faux pas to be using individuals as political props in opposition if you're not going to see things through. And I think all it does for many people is sow the distrust into elected politicians even more, and you're doing everybody a disservice by not helping these women. If you say you're going to help them and it's unfair, you better find the money to help.
Is it over? Can there be another revolt in the Commons about it? I think there's been one vote.
There will be voices of disquiet. I'm sure they'll get louder as the years go on if things continue as they are on all manner of subjects. But I don't know, it's going to come down to maybe if they are going to put forward legal challenges, if there's a legal decision that says these women have got to be paid, someone's got to find the money, no matter who's in government.
Can we talk about the worst January for job vacancies as well since the pandemic? Rachel Reeves' tax raid is squeezing employers, and now we're starting to see this in the job figures, the availability, because for a while we've said, well, there's so many jobs available, everyone should be in work. Those jobs are disappearing. Yeah,
and, you know, it speaks volumes when it's the worst one since January 2021. You think of where we were as a country and as a world at that point. I think before the budget, there was rumours she was going to put up employers' national insurance contributions, and I think I said in theory I can see why she'd want to do it. There's £3 billion there to play for, but you'd be shooting yourself in the foot because 20% of this country are public sector workers, and therefore you're increasing your own budget because you're going to be having to pay people more, and therefore you'd be shooting yourself in your foot, and it becomes a net loss rather than a potential gain, because it's also going to disincentivise employers from taking people on, particularly smaller businesses, some of which I know back home have gone to the wall and have said explicitly this is because of the national insurance contribution rise. So it's not great. And what I think I would admit, which lots of Labour people would not, a lot of the measures Rachel Reeves has taken during her budget were inflationary. And therefore, this is why we see inflation at 3%, not at the 2.5%.
And none of that's really
private schools.
None of it's really bitten yet.
That
we're looking forward to April when it will all come to roost. That not only is there the national insurance rise that's hitting employers, but there's also the reduction in the limits as well as the increase in and the increase in the minimum wage. All of these are putting the brakes on jobs. And James Reed, the CEO of Reed Employment Services, who are the biggest job advertising company in the country, said last month he hasn't seen it this bad since 2008.
God, that's when we had the crash.
It really is that bad. That in over 2024, job vacancies dropped by 24%. By the end of January, that had gone up to 29%. It is accelerating. It is getting worse and worse.
And ironic,
it's very stark, all because of the budget.
And her whole approach was growth growth. And what she's doing is strangling it.
Well, you tax cigarettes and alcohol to stop people drinking and smoking. If you tax jobs, you stop people working.
Yeah, and actually, the tragedy is this isn't going to be the huge companies. They will be fine. It is your small and medium-sized British businesses, people who put blood, sweat and tears to grow a small business. These are the ones who will go to the wall.
And part-time workers on the minimum wage are going to be absolutely hammered. Really concerning.
One of the worst sectors, hairdressing salons, apparently. It's going to be a disaster for them.
Absolutely.
And you know, I was surprised. I remember saying on election night live, I can't get excited because my fear is this will just be a further managed decline of the economy of what the Conservatives I felt did for 14 years. And at the moment we're 6 months in and people haven't felt worse off than they ever have.
No, you're right.
Isn't it?
Absolutely right.
Annunziata, what strikes me every time I see Keir Starmer speak is that somebody has handed him a piece of paper and said, read that out. Who is handing him these pieces of paper and why can't he talk from the heart?
It does come across every time as though he hasn't ever seen them before as well. He's got no fluency, he's got no passion, there's no emphasis. It's literally, and I read this and that is what I am meant to say. Who is giving him the lines? Why is he not being a leader and leading and setting the direction himself?
Matthew Talbot, he's a highly skilled KC. He's an advocate in court. He's meant to be a clever lawyer. He must have been... I mean, I'm not going to denigrate the public sector, but is that why he stayed in the public sector and never tried his arm in the private sector? Because he'd have sunk without trace.
I think...
Because that's again, was... He makes a tree. He's more wooden than a tree.
Yeah, no, he's delivered with all the charisma of a wet hanky, really. And it really concerns me that this is a vital week for Keir. I would say the UK and, more importantly, Ukraine. He's got to prove what he's worth this week with regards to Donald Trump and Ukraine.
That was embarrassing.
And I mean, we hear he's a highly skilled KC. Maybe he was. I don't know. I've never seen him in action. I think the one thing I always get from his speeches, and I don't enjoy criticising Labour or Keir Starmer, they just make it easy at the moment, is it lacks of authenticity.
Exactly.
And I think that's maybe why he was better as a barrister rather than a politician. He gives me the feeling that he doesn't believe a single word of what he is saying, and why I was always very distrustful of him in opposition. I mean, the stuff that he said, I think in principle is fine. There has to be a settlement that works for a sovereign Ukraine. Maybe a US backstop to ensure that there's some level of security there and it be a lasting peace. And if Ukraine fails, then we all fail. Absolutely. Give it some gumption, man. Not like you're bothered. The whole world may depend on this week, the way that we're looking. And you're giving it, you know, as if you can't be bothered and you're reading a shopping list.
The Trump government, as well, is pulling into sharp focus how weak-willed and spineless our current government are. Is that too harsh?
Yesterday, Donald Trump gave yet another speech, and I find him a very brash character. I don't think I'd like him. I don't want to go for dinner with him. But my God, the passion, the belief in his country, the enthusiasm, the hope for the future that he can convey. And then you hear Keir Starmer. You just lose all hope.
I know.
Whether it's on Ukraine or the economy or our police, our immigration, it makes no difference. You just can't believe anything's going to change or be good.
And you see, Matthew, some people grow into a job. I've not seen any sign of him growing into this job at all. He looks to me like he can't stand the job.
I remember the criticisms of Keir when he first came in. And it was tricky because it was COVID. Very weird chamber that was a third full and whatever else. And people said, give him time. He's a little bit wooden, give him time, he'll grow into it. I just think back to, do you remember when he was Shadow Brexit Secretary? And he would deliver fairly decent speeches because he believed it. He didn't want us to leave. He wanted a second referendum. What he is what certain books have described that have been released this last week. He is an empty vessel that the Chief of Staff has leapt upon to be used to kill the left of the party, and they will cut him off as soon as he's electorally expendable and West Streeting will be placed in. This is where he is. He just what does he believe? Where's his political vision? We've got homelessness going backwards in this country. We've got 8 million children in poverty, people feeling worse off than ever, prisons fit to collapse, and infrastructure that is Victorian level. Where's your vision? What are you doing? You want to make people feel better. How? How are you going to do it?
Isn't he already expendable? I mean, his popularity ratings could not be lower. I mean, they're lower than Rishi Sunak's, who just lost the worst defeat of the Tories ever. I mean, how you get that low within 6 months is quite incredible, having won a landslide.
That conversation will come. I've always said 2026 we'll lose Wales and Scotland, and there is a period there for Labour to play this cleverly and have a Joe Biden-esque conversation of, Keir, we're so grateful. We had the worst defeat since 1936 or whatever it was. We thought there was no way back, and you've got us into government. You'd killed the left of the party. We're back for the people. But if you stay, we're not going to.
But if he doesn't fall on his sword, it's the mechanism to get rid of a sitting Labour Prime Minister is very difficult.
You can't.
Impossible.
Well, when we were looking at doing it in opposition many moons ago, which I won't go into now, the rules are if there's a sitting Labour Prime Minister, you have to submit a, whatever the delegates do at a motion a year in advance. Well, they've got time to plan. If you were going to try and get a no-confidence motion, you have to get your slip from the whip's office. They know exactly. Of course they will. He's not going anywhere.
Let's just try and get another story in. Mike Amesbury, this is a friend of yours, Matthew. This is the MP who was caught having a fight with one of his constituents on CCTV.
A very novel way to conduct a constituency surgery.
I mean,
you're not their lights out in the streets after a booze up.
Big and fast this morning, isn't it, really, with regards to Labour?
He's going to get sentenced today for assault.
Yeah, no, I can't defend what Mike did, but I will always say in the time that I've known him, very gentle, calm, mild-mannered man. I was deeply shocked when I saw the footage and got the phone calls about it. Maybe there's something going on in the background, but I think he has, he's totally thrown his life away in one drunken mistake, and I can't advocate for that sort of behaviour.
Do you think he'll get a prison sentence?
I think that was the fear, that he'll get a couple of years inside. He's pled guilty. I assume, no prior knowledge, that, whether the court will look at him as having good previous, upstanding person otherwise, and first offence and stuff like that, maybe he'll see. But then they might want to make an example of him. I don't know what the guidelines are.
Should they make an example if he's an MP?
No, I think justice should be equal, whoever you are. But I do think he should move aside and allow a by-election. That people hanging on in there, he should have done it straight away. He knew instantly his position was not tenable, that he shouldn't carry on being an MP, and we should get someone new in there. And I think it would be a very interesting by-election with Reform having come second.
And that's in Cheshire, the constituency in Cheshire.
Runcorn.
Yeah. Oh, it's in Runcorn. Yeah. Right, Annunziata, Matt, great to see you. Time for news headlines. Here's Lewis.
Thanks for watching, and if you like that clip, please give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for lots more stimulating articles, debates and interviews. Also, see our website popularconservatism.com and the notes below for more details.